In this movie, I'll share with you a couple of artboard tips and tricks, which I know sounds a little bit vague, but hopefully it sounds enticing as well, because these are some very helpful skills. So let's say what I want to do is create an artboard that encompasses all of the existing artboards, which might sound like a weird thing to do, but it's oftentimes very useful because artboards serve as containers for printing pages, so they serve as real pages inside of a document, and they also serve as export containers. And so you may not only want to export the number 0, for example, but you might want to at some point print or export all of the numbers as one big document. And so to create this Uber artboard, I'm going to go ahead and select the artboard tool. Again, you can get that tool by pressing Shift-O. Now, what I want to do is draw an artboard that's exactly big enough to hold the existing ones. I can't drag from this corner handle, however, because it's selected, and that means I'm going to go ahead and scale artboard 0, which is not what I want. So I'll press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac to undo that change. But notice, even if I try to start at the opposite corner, the bottom right corner of artboard 8, I end up scaling it even though it wasn't selected. So what I need to do is press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac, make sure I'm starting on a deselected artboard, and press the Shift key in order to tell Illustrator that I want to create a new artboard. So once again, that's the Shift key. And notice as I start to drag, I'm creating a brand new artboard. The problem is, because I still have the Shift key down, I'm constraining it to the aspect ratio of the last selected artboard, which of course is artboard 0. So what I need to do is now release the Shift key. So you just need to have the Shift key down at the beginning of your drag, and then just go ahead and drag until you snap into alignment with the upper left corner of artboard 0, like so, and you have an artboard that's exactly big enough to contain all the other artboards. The problem is, it seems to me at least from an aesthetic perspective, is that we should have a little bit of gap around the edges of the artboard as well that matches the gap between the artboards, which you may recall from the previous movie, is 60 points. So what I'm going to do is go up to the reference point matrix, switch it from the upper left corner to the center point right there, and then go ahead and click in the width value, click after it, and we're going to enter not plus 60, because what we really want is 60 points on the left and 60 points on the right. So instead, we need to enter plus 60 times 2, which is, by the way, plus 120. And then press the Tab key, and we get an extra 60 points on either side. And now that I have the height value selected, I'll go ahead and press the right arrow key in order to move to the end of that value, and I'll enter plus 120 once again in order to add 60 points above and below the existing artboards. All right, Illustrator is calling this new artboard Artboard 13 for whatever reason. So I'm just going to click the word name up here in the control panel in order to select the existing name, and I'll replace it with Uberboard and press the Enter key or the Return key on the Mac to rename that artboard. All right, now the problem becomes one of stacking order. And what I mean by that is that Illustrator thinks of one artboard as being in front of another one. And by default, the last artboard created is the one in front, and the first artboard is the one in back. So the one that's called 101 right there for artboard 1, that's at the back of the stack. And the one that's called 10, Uberboard, is in front of all the other ones, which means if I try to click on artboard 1, I don't end up selecting it. If you want to select an artboard that's below another artboard, all you need to do is click on its title, like so. And that's going to allow you to select any artboard inside of your illustration, which means it's a good habit to get into, as opposed to just trying to click on an artboard to select it. Notice I clicked on artboard 3 and I ended up selecting the Uberboard instead. Just go ahead and get in the habit of clicking on the title, and that way there's less ambiguity. You know exactly which artboard you're selecting. So once again, if you want to create an artboard either on top of or inside of another artboard, you press and hold the Shift key and drag like so. Obviously, I don't want this new artboard, so I'm just going to press the backspace key or the delete key on the Mac to get rid of it. And if you want to select an artboard that's behind another one, just go ahead and click on its gray title like so.